when you look at the pieces of legislation on child rights issues, you find that there are a lot of gaps when it comes to child marriage. It is not early marriage. We talk about children marriage or child marriage.
Hello and welcome to Playground Chats. My name is Brian King and I am your host today. This week I will be hosting Mr. Ben Omillo, an aspiring MCA. So let's hear from him. Hello Ben, and how are you doing?
I'm fine, Brian. I'm Ben Omillo, aspiring MCA Bunyala West Ward in Busia County, and I'm happy to be here.
Yes, thank you so much. We're also happy to have you today. Maybe you could tell us a bit about yourself and what is motivating you to be an MCA for Bunyala West Ward.
Okay, thank you. As I said, my name is Ben Omillo and I'm aspiring MCA Bunyala West Ward. And one thing that inspires me to go for this seat is that firstly, we have been, the legislation has been devolved through the devolution. The Constitution gave us, the 2010 Constitution gave us an opportunity to legislate at the lower level, at the lowest level, and that is the county level. So a lot of laws that go to influence policy, to influence development at grassroots are being done at the county level. And as a result, having been in this field, I believe we can transform a lot at county level, at grassroots level, by legislating through the county assembly.
Earlier you had said that you have a lot of experience with children. As a future leader, what exactly do you think you can change for the children of Busia, Bunyala Ward?
There are a lot of things happening. I have an experience working with children. I work with the children looking at the existing laws, the existing policies, the existing legislations. Like we have the Children's Act in Kenya, which has stalled since 2015. And this is a disservice for children. This piece of legislation has stalled, say, in the National Assembly, and we should start, pushing for the agenda of children from the county. And you find that even nobody from the county assembly, no MCA across this country has raised question why even the National Assembly has stalled the Children's Act since 2015. And when you look even at our counties, our county assemblies, when you look at the pieces of legislation on child rights issues, you find that there are a lot of gaps when it comes to child marriage. It is not early marriage. We talk about children marriage or child marriage. When it comes to FGM, female genital mutilation, when it comes to the rights of the girl child, right to education, child labor, there are a lot of gaps that still exist in our laws that we have to start legislating at the county level. And that's why I feel I'm the best bet for this position, because firstly, I'm going to take children matters as my priority. Because at grassroots, Busia is I can say, is a rural county, so to speak. It's not peri-urban, but not. It is a rural county. And as you understand, the challenges faced by children at grassroots level are so enormous. And there should be leaders who can now look at what are the existing legislations that can be used to transform this issue. We have a lot of child marriage, we have a lot of child trafficking. Busia being a county at the border, there is a lot of child trafficking. There are a lot of children on streets. There are a lot of children hawking, trading. Parents don't allow children time to play. Instead children are sent to go hawk, to go trade. And that is child labor according to the law. When we have a lot of laws that speak about child rights at national level, these laws have not been devolved at the county level, and county governments require brains that can go to the assembly and address these issues. And from my experience, having worked on regional laws, like I work at the African, I support the African Committee of Experts in many ways, like through alternative reporting. Perhaps even some counties do not know that there's a process that the country, Kenya, is a state party to the African Charter on the rights and welfare of the child. It has committed that this about education, the government is going to do. This on child marriage, it is going to be done by this time. And we cannot start just legislating at national level. We have to start legislating at county level. When we are working on Kenya report to the African Committee on the Rights and Welfare of the Child, we need to hear voices from all the 47 counties, voices of the children. We even have the children's report, which follows that civil society alternative reports, or what we call, actually we call them the alternative report. We stopped calling them shadow report to the state report. So we need children from all counties to contribute to the children's report. You find that children do not, Busia County children are left far much behind. They might even not know that there is this platform on advocacy. There's this platform that their voice can reach to the continent level, and even there is an opportunity to their voice, to a voice of a child in Busia, in Budalangi, where I come from, to reach to the commission at the CRC. We have the UNCRC, the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. Those are platforms that, you know, your voices can be drawn from the grassroots level all the way to the global level through the African, you know, even at the continental and at global level. So one thing, my passion is that I want the voices of children to be heard. I want the voices of children to be respected. I want the issues on child rights to be acted upon by the duty bearers. And this can only be done if we have good legislation, if we have good policies, and if we have people in these political positions, starting at MCA, who have passion for the rights of the child. That is my motivation, my brother.
Wow, I can see your passion. Okay, so the thing is, you've mentioned a lot of violations when it comes to kids' rights. You've also mentioned that Kenya in general has been ignoring the child rights and child mandate in general. So if you become a leader, and when you become a leader, what are some of the changes you plan to make as a leader? What are these gaps, and how do you exactly plan to fill them? How are you going to change this thing as a leader yourself?
Thank you, and that is a very, very good question, Brian. Firstly, when you look at the early childhood development, the ECD was devolved. There are a lot of challenges faced by children at this level. You know, when you miss professional, and this is scientific, when you miss to get the right, to get that goodness, that values of the child between age 0 to 3, you have lost it. You will struggle. A sociologist and psychologist will tell you this, and even the resocializing a person is more expensive. So ECD is very, very important to a child, and this is an area that has been devolved. When you go to most counties, they have not even come up with a framework on just simply organizing and paying for their ECD teachers. The ECD teachers do not even have a union. They have been rejected by NAT. They have been even, the only thing that they have is a TSC number. And you know, even their payment, their salaries are being defined by the whims of leaders at county level. So the first thing I'm going to address seriously is on ECD. Where are our children schooling? Do they have even playgrounds? In most cases, children do not even have playgrounds, especially in rural. They don't have an opportunity to play. Even their schools, even the ECDs are mixed with with primary schools. But when you look at that ECD class, is dilapidated. When you look at the resources available for children in ECD, there are no resources there. It is left for teachers to be creative and perhaps send children to pick some stones, to pick some bottle tops, to pick some bottles to play with. But ECD has been, you know, neglected by most of our county governments, and that is going to be one thing that I'm going to address. Looking at the ECD teacher, having the ECD teacher well trained to handle children, having the ECD teacher go for refresher courses, and we should have a framework, a nurturing framework. There is what we call a nurturing framework for children that we should that should be, you know, should be taken up by the county leadership, that should be taken up in the policies of the county government, and especially my county government where I'm vying, Busia. I'm going to ensure that we come up with these policies, we come up with this legislation that address the child from ECD. Issues of health, also you find that our hospitals are dilapidated. Where are our mothers? Where are our wives going to give birth from? We should come up with robust programs for women to deliver. As I said, it is from age 0. So it means when a person, when a woman, when a mother is still pregnant, you have from conception. Life begins at conception. So we should not ignore all these stages, and then that we should come up with laws that address the plight of the child from the unborn child to at that time they are 3 years and beyond. So that is going to be my passion. We are going to engage expatriates on matters child rights. We are going to engage people who understand child development, and looking at those and coming up with those frameworks, I think we are going to be able to address the plight of the child in Busia County.
Oh, I'm very glad you mentioned health and hospitals, because one of the most basic rights of the children is basically life. And for life to flourish, you have to have health in there. You mentioned the state of the Busia health, and not just in Busia, but in Kenya as well. What exactly do you plan to do to make sure that these kids up there, from the early stages, that is from 0 to 9 months and from 9 and above, what exactly are you planning to do to make sure that these kids do not die in the hospitals and do not die at home, where their parents still are trying to, use herbalistic medicines and not using the professional care? What exactly are you planning to do to change this?
One thing, as I told you, that people speak of development without policy. We should come up with policy and pieces of legislation that we can refer to. Most of these leaders, they get away with things, even governors, even the president, even whatever, because there are no pieces of legislation that can, like hold them to account. So the most important thing is that we come up with pieces of legislation that address all these sectors: health, education, agriculture, matters nutrition. We know very well that children must get good, healthy food, not just food, but food that, make them develop their brain, their body, and all, so that they are grown fully, they grow up fully and well engaged. So firstly is to come up with pieces of legislation in every sector that we see that can contribute to child development. And we have talked of education, we have talked of agriculture, we have talked of health. And health, look at, like for instance, my hospital, my sub-county hospital, Port Victoria sub-county hospital. When you go in that hospital, even by the look of the hospital, you get more sick. Because of even having that hospital being, getting a new, a new paint has been a big problem. We should have good health centers. We should look at how does the policy define that in every sub-county, in every ward, can we have a health center in every ward? Starting with that. We should not be talking about ambulances. We should be talking about accessible, good health. Again, let us look at how many doctors do we have, say, in Busia County? And what priorities are we giving to train these doctors, if we don't, and nurses in the health sector, and their bursaries? We should ensure that we direct our resources so that we have everything right on child rights. And that's why I say that we're going to look at the health centers and come up with policies that these health centers, they are not just buildings. We have the superstructure there, that is the professionals. We have the doctors, we have the nurses, we have the social workers, and we have what they require. Some health sectors do not, some health centers do not even have clean water. Leave alone clean water, even running dirty water is not there. Because, and that is still reference to my hospital in my ward, the biggest hospital in my ward, that is at the center of 2 permanent water sources, the Lake Victoria and the River Nzoia. And it doesn't have water. It is struggling with electricity bills. People are dying just because, and children are dying, and mothers are giving birth there. So we have to start addressing those issues at the county level, the pieces of legislation, and directing, our resources where they are needed. And these, as I said, we have national policies on these sectors. And also Kenya, is a party state to the African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child. It is also a party state to the African Commission on Human Rights. So all these things that we are talking about, child rights, children rights, are human rights, and we should start addressing them from the first piece of legislation that we make at county level. And these issues should go in there, that we should have good hospitals, we should have good schools, ECD schools, and we should have certain amount going towards enhancing these services. Like, for instance, you have heard of Obamacare. Yes. A few years ago, I wrote a paper on Denicare, a Somaliland or Puntland president who was called Dennis. You have heard, if I can go politically, one of the major politicians talking about Babacare. Now, these cares should be real. We should not have a Babacare which is not going to address issues on child rights, but are going to address issues of Babas. So we should come up with health cares or health strategies that are good. We talked about universal health care, which was launched somewhere in Kisumu and I think in Machakos and elsewhere. How has it worked? We should look at the good practices drawn from this universal health care. We should look at these good practices drawn from, was it called the Zero, with the First Ladies program, all those. Beyond Zero, yeah. Beyond Zero campaign by the First Lady. And what good practices can we get from those initiatives that can now form part of the content of our legislation towards the rights of the child and well-being of the child. And that is going to be my work at the county. And I'm going to ensure that I whip the rest of my colleagues in the county assembly to have this done.
Yeah, okay. It is true, we can see that you're ready for your role as a leader. But what do you think the role of a parent or a guardian as the primary caregiver to a child is? This is as we conclude.
Yes, thank you. As we conclude, parents play a bigger role. From the word go, they have to play a bigger role by electing me. Yeah. Firstly, IBC is now having the last phase for voter registration. So parents should start by ensuring that they get voters cards, they register as voters and go to elect correct leaders. Not just electing people because of their 50 bob, because of their 20 bob, because of their million giving you. They are buying. Parents should not, pray to politicians. They should elect good leaders. We have problems. There's a saying, I've talked much about legislation, pieces of legislation, yeah. But there's a saying that Kenya has good laws, but implementation is the problem. So we might end up having these good laws in the county, but not even implementing them. So we should have correct leaders in place who should push for this agenda and ensure that these laws are working. So parents should also, firstly, as the primary caregivers, ensure that they become aware of already existing frameworks on child rights. The government has made sure that there are those frameworks. The civil society, I work with the civil society on matters children. So the civil society has ensured that they have created a lot of awareness in the community. So parents should seek for information. Firstly, they should seek for information and guidance on how to, get things done right. Firstly, by ensuring that their children are disciplined. We talk of the African Charter on the Rights of the Welfare of the Child, and we have the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. So these pieces of legislation, they might look ambiguous or they're up there, but they address children from the grassroots. The parent is that person who is taking care of the child. They should ensure the security of the child. And in case of anything that happens to a child, it is a parent who is responsible. Yes. So the major responsibility rests with the parent. Yes. And they should know that they carry all this. When politicians come in, when the government come in, it has a duty. But the responsibility is on the parent.
Okay, as we wind up, maybe you can highlight for us your key manifestos concerning the children.
Okay, thank you, Brian. And as I mentioned, that my key manifesto issue or points in point form is that one is health, education, nutrition, agriculture, and of course I'm also going to address matters on ECD teachers and generally in education, the ECD framework, the whole of it. And lastly, you know, ensuring that we have programs for children. We talk about school feeding program, we talk about, you know, programs for child rights, you know, all that, and ensuring that the spaces for children are not grabbed and occupied by politicians and relevant people. And actually, starting from these campaigns, we should ensure that we respect schools. We should not be landing our choppers in schools. We should not be doing all campaigns in school fields. And I think we should have a conversation with the IBC whereby these polling stations, we are interfering. We should firstly consult children. Child participation is very key. We should not just go to that school because it is a government school to turn it into a polling station or a tallying center. We should, and that is something I want to see from the child rights sector. I want to see the IBC engaging children on wanting to use their spaces, the schools, as tallying centers, as polling centers, and also politicians wanting to use schools as their landing sites and also their campaign fields. So I have mentioned that, and that is my manifesto, and that is my passion on for children as I go to the political field.
Thank you so much, Mr. Omillo. We hope to see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. This has been the Playground Chats. See you next time with another leader.